Welcome back to the Keys to Success podcast. You have your host, Tilisa Stubbs, and of course, I have my beautiful co-host, Deba Douglas. Deba, this week has been a week.
Indeed. And
I
it's
will just
only
say that for
Tuesday.
starters.
It's only Tuesday.
That's crazy. Like it feels like there's been like a week worth of work done already. Like I'm not even understanding where we are right now.
Oh,
But
yeah.
how have you been this week, girl?
It has been steady and good. Just this weekend, the market has started to take a turn in the Texas area where it was kind of like slagging. Nobody was putting offers on houses, but we've gotten more traffic on our open houses. And this week alone, we've gotten 4 of the mentees that have flipped their house. We got them under contract. So
Woo!
great feeling. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I know how much anxiety is like built up during like that time of waiting. So congratulations to you and your mentees. Y'all out there in Dallas like killing the game. I'm so proud of y'all. Without further ado, I want to introduce my amazing guest. This couple is literally, when I say like a dynamic duo, like this is a dynamic duo. They just recently had a little baby. And when I tell you, like, that has not slowed them down at all. Like, I don't even know how you guys do it. They are experts in the short term rental space. They're helping other people get their short term rental businesses going. And they're owners of a beautiful boutique hotel. I'll let them tell you guys more about that. But without further ado, Amanda and David, welcome to the Keys to Success podcast. Tell the people, who is Amanda and David?
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much for having us, ladies. We're so excited to be here. I mean, the baby, we feel a little bit slower these days. I mean, not a lot of sleep, but deals have to keep moving. So yeah, definitely feeling that. So we are obviously husband, wife. We're also business partners, which is pretty unique in itself. We are with Nopali Properties, and it's a family owned real estate investment company. Our third partner is my brother, Oscar. And we've been investing since early 2020. Just as the pandemic was starting, we decided to get into this crazy world of real estate. And ever since then, we've been doing deals, fix and flips, short-term rentals, and also now, as you mentioned, getting into a little bit of the commercial space with boutique hotels. So we're a 3-person team, and we are Nopali Properties.
Wow. And y'all started this in 2020?
Yeah, we started in 2020, right before the pandemic hit. We were actually at our first real estate kind of not a meetup, but it was like a boot camp, and that's when the county shut down on day 2 of the boot camp. So we literally jumped right in. It was kind of difficult to get started during the pandemic, and then once we got traction, it was amazing after that.
Wow.
So I got to know, and I think the people want to know, how did you guys even meet? How did Amanda meet David? Take us back to like when y'all had butterflies. What was that all about?
Oh yeah, it's
Which
a good
version
story.
do you want to hear, his or mine?
Well, we actually used to date before. So we used to date in high school, actually. We were introduced by a mutual friend. My friend Diana, I had met her, through a program. And she's like, hey, I got to introduce you to my friend Amanda. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll talk to Amanda. And we had one phone conversation and we just had chemistry right away. It was amazing. We met in person, and that's when the butterflies came, the sparks flew. We were in high school together for 2 years. We broke up, went to college. We broke up for about 8 years, where we each went our own ways. And then we ended up reconnecting and realizing that we had grown into very similar people with very similar goals. So in 2014, we officially reconnected. And that's when I was like, shoot, like I'm gonna marry this girl. Like I already know this is gonna happen. And we've been dating again since 2014. We were officially married in 2016, and then we just had our first baby 3 months ago in August.
Oh, congratulations, guys. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Okay, we're in 2020. What were y'all doing before y'all decided to go into real estate? Why were all directions facing real estate?
We were all in very different roles. We all worked corporate. So my background's in engineering and I have an MBA. And before real estate, I worked in corporate for 10 years. And I had recently been working for a renewable energy company doing solar development. And I got laid off in July of 2019. And at that moment, I asked myself, like, do I really want to keep doing this, or do I want to try something on my own? So that was kind of a pivoting point for me. I'll let David share a little bit about his background, and then Oscar, his background's in construction management. He had been working for some pretty big names doing construction project management, both residential, commercial space. And he actually took the leap and jumped into real estate, quit his job in October of that same year. And then David's background is actually really interesting. I always love to have him share because people would never expect what he did prior to this.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Amanda loves throwing this out there. It's pretty cool. So prior to real estate, I was a California desert archaeologist. I was a working archaeologist. I have a master's degree in archaeology. I taught at the university level for 2 years. I went on excavation in some amazing places. I spent 4 weeks in Spain digging up necropoli, which was really cool because it was right when the Moorish occupation, the switch between the Moors and the Christians. So we were able to identify the burials based on how the orientation of the burials. We were able to identify who was Moorish and who was Christian.
Wow.
I also spent, it was pretty amazing. I also spent 4 weeks on the north coast of Peru excavating some amazing sites there, reconstructing skulls that had been cranial deformation. They had undergone cranial deformation. So that's a very important cultural practice in that area of Peru, where they would actually reshape the skulls of infants. So I used to, be a digger. I mean, that's what I did. We excavated, I unearthed ancient relics of the past, and it was really cool. But it was very underpaid. I was making $55,000 a year as an archaeologist. That's before taxes. I had no control over my time. I had no control over my physical work location. As you can imagine, archaeology happens in remote places. It doesn't necessarily happen too much in downtown LA, although I have done archaeology in downtown LA. So I was leaving this, amazing woman behind a lot. And I realized something, that I wanted to be near her. I knew that I wasn't going to be the archaeologist who defined of the century, or who was going to, change, the course of humanity or anything like that. And I was totally okay with it. And we flipped our first house in September of 2020. We finished that house in January of 2021. And we made 2.5 times my yearly salary as an archaeologist in 3 months. So that was really the deciding factor to be like, okay, I love what I'm doing in archaeology, but what's this real estate house flipping thing? Because I want to go make some money and build our own business. And we've been, full-time ever since.
Yeah. He has a way cooler background, right? Way cooler than mine.
That is pretty cool. You don't meet archaeologists every day, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm usually the only one. I'm usually the only one at the networking event.
So I think it's so interesting how each of you guys has a different set of skills from your corporate jobs. And I'm curious to know how you guys were able to bring your brother into this. Have you guys always wanted to just work together, or how did y'all loop him in?
Yeah, that's a great question. So even though we were all working in corporate settings, we knew that we didn't want to work a W-2 for the rest of our lives. So prior to starting Nopali Properties, we actually had a small ATM portfolio in Los Angeles. I believe at one point we had up to, I think, 16 machines. We had actually tried to start a couple of other businesses, like a taco truck app, a couple of inventions, a cannabis dispensary, right? And so we knew that we didn't want to be W-2 wage earners, because that would be making someone else's dream come true. And we wanted to go out there and make our own dreams come true. And so Oscar has a commercial construction background. He was actually a superintendent for 9, maybe 10-figure company when he was 25 years old. So he is the construction master. His knowledge of construction and materials and how to build out spaces is absolutely incredible. So we kind of all put our heads together to see who was good at what. Amanda, she has an MBA, so naturally finance, acquisitions, that was her thing. Oscar, he's our project management, our construction guy. I used to go out and find archaeological sites. So now it's my job to go out and find deals. So that's why I'm the head of marketing and lead generation. And I just love people. I love interfacing with people. I love talking to people. I love talking to strangers. And so we were able to fit in our roles, pretty perfectly. And then once we started acquiring short-term rentals, I really like short-term rentals. I love being able to provide those experiences for people. So I took the lead on handling our short-term rental operations as well.
Yeah, and if I might add, you asked like what got Oscar on board. Well, it was I had gotten laid off and I was trying to figure out my next move, and I just kept hearing the same sentiments from Oscar, and he was like, I look at my supervisors in construction, they're all sick, they're all they have like estranged family members. Like he's like, that's not the future that I want. He's like, if I'm going to work that hard, it's going to be to like put an extra dollar in my own pocket, you know? And we had always talked about wanting to do something together. He talked about all the things that we had tried. And we just stumbled upon an ad on Instagram about real estate. And I remember we went to a 2-hour workshop, and I had never heard of wholesaling before. And David couldn't go at the time. So it was me and Oscar. And we're like, oh my God, someone made 10 grand from signing a piece of paper. Like, that's insane. Like, what is this? Right. And anyway, so we got drawn into this real estate education program. And believe it or not, when it came down to buying into that program, these guys had to convince me, because I was like, I don't know if we should do this. This is crazy. And by the end of it, we were all on board. And I think what really pulled us all together was the shared vision that we just wanted something bigger and better for the family.
Wow, that's beautiful. So that is what I love about that, is like now you guys are playing to each other's skills and what you guys do well together. And together, y'all are able to do so much more than you could do individually. And that is powerful. So, okay, so you talked about the first flip. And then how did we somewhere get stumbled into short-term rental? And it sounds like that's kind of where our wheelhouse is.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first flip was actually, we flipped it into a short-term rental. It was the pandemic and we were brand new real estate investors, so nobody really gave us a shot. Amanda had the amazing idea to send out an email to everybody in her network asking if anyone had a house to flip. And one of her old coworkers, who's a really good friend of ours now, was like, hey, I have a house in Joshua Tree. We were in Los Angeles, California. Joshua Tree is actually 2 hours away. So we got this house under contract, seller financing. That was our first deal. And at the time, the short-term rental market was taking off. Joshua Tree has a national park, and it sees 3 to 4 million visitors annually. There are about 2 or 3 terrible motels, and the rest of the people stay in short-term rentals. So we knew, as flippers, we knew that our target customer, the person who was going to buy that house or purchase that home, was likely going to be a short-term rental investor. And that's exactly what happened. We listed the house for around $330, and it sold for $410 because a short-term rental investor wanted to buy it. And we did a couple little things to appeal to short-term rental investors, like put a smart lock on the door and a cowboy tub and things like that. But that's really what got us looking at the short-term rental market, because we obviously had just hit a grand slam home run with that first house flip. And we knew, okay, more short-term rental investors are going to flock to this area. The average purchase price in the neighborhood was crazy cheap. At the time, it was somewhere around $250,000 to $300,000. And these are houses that are in the middle of the desert, often a little bit dilapidated, right? We all purchased distressed properties, so we know these houses, they're pretty ugly. And we knew that we can build a really spectacular product. So that's what really got us looking at the short-term rental market. And we knew, okay, we're just going to flip these houses and sell them to short-term rental investors. It was I think the fourth house we got, or the third or fourth house that we got under contract and we were flipping. It was a house on Golden Street in Joshua Tree, California. And this house was a 2008 build. It was on 2.5 acres. And we knew that it had all of the makings of a stellar short-term rental. And so we were like, okay, how do we keep this? We were so new to the game, but we knew that ultimately, in order to build wealth, we have to hold on to these properties, and we can't just continue to flip them. So we fell in love with this property. We flipped it into an outstanding short-term rental. We linked up with a local designer who is absolutely phenomenal. Her name is Yahaira from the Styled Property. She came in, she decorated it for us, she staged it, she furnished it, and we launched it as a short-term rental. Within 2 weeks, our calendar was entirely booked for 4 months. So that was pretty spectacular because the bookings just were rolling in at the time. And then shortly after that, we were actually contacted directly by Airbnb because they wanted to feature our property on their website. At this time, It was spectacular. So at this time, it was right before Airbnb made the updates to their website. So if you go on Airbnb.com, at the very top, you'll see different categories of houses: lake house, beach house, oh my God, things like that. And despite the fact that our home was in the desert, they wanted to feature us in the design category. So they sent out a photographer, they gave us a free photo shoot, they featured us in the design category, and we had this sort of phenomenal recipe, or this formula for executing on a good short-term rental in the area. And we knew that if we can continue to replicate this model, we'll be successful. And that's exactly what happened. And I believe Tilisa knows this, but I have to say this, Deba. That house is actually an international award-winning home.
Wow.
Yeah, so our designer submitted that for the 2022 International Vacation Home Staging Project, and it won Best Vacation Home Staging Design Project. And we beat out houses in Australia, the United Kingdom, and South America.
Wow. Kudos to y'all. That is amazing. Oh my gosh. That is beautiful. Oh my goodness.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a team sport. It's a team sport, really.
Oh my gosh. Like, where do you even start? You guys have accomplished so much within really a short period of time. To have the Airbnb folks like reach out to you guys, like, that's absolutely insane. So now you guys have the recipe, right? You have the recipe, you have the people, you have the brains, you have the design team. So you know what's necessary to have a successfully running Airbnb experience, not just an Airbnb, because we all know that just renting out a home on Airbnb in a residential area is not really considered an experience, right? And so you guys have figured out a way to create an experience. And now, from what I know, you guys are helping other people who also want to get into the short-term rental space, who also want to have that same design aspect, but they do not necessarily know where to begin. They don't know how to find a deal. They don't know how to design it at all. Tell me, how did you guys get roped into that? And where do you see that business going in the future?
So at this point, we've built out probably over 10 properties in the short-term rental space. So as you can imagine, we made a lot of mistakes and learned a lot of lessons. I never want to open another cardboard box ever again. And so over time, we figured out, like you said, we figured out the recipe, the systems, the process to do this as efficiently as possible. And naturally, people were coming to us and saying, hey, how does this work? How'd you do this? Do you offer design services? Like, how do I get it to the level of your projects, right? And we decided that, last year, especially when things were starting to get a little bit uncertain with the market, how do we pivot and add value to our business with something that we've already established as a team? And we're like, well, we should offer short-term rental consulting services, because you see a lot of turnkey services for long-term rentals, right? Well, we haven't seen much of that in the short-term rental space. So we thought, hey, why don't we provide a kind of done-for-you service, A to Z? Because we know plenty of people who want to get into a short-term rental, but maybe they have the capital, but they don't have the know-how, the time, or the energy. And they just want the investment, and they want someone to do it as efficiently as possible. So that's where we came in, and we developed this additional business model. And we decided to establish and document all of our processes, which are, dozens and dozens and dozens of checklists for getting through the short-term rental process, A to Z. And I'm talking everywhere from underwriting and doing the market research all the way to clicking live on Airbnb and property management and everything in between, including renovations, setup, that is putting up the amenities, all of the back-end automations, marketing, all of it, everything in between. So we decided that this could be something really good to offer to people and help them set up, a short-term rental that is not only beautiful, but really, really profitable for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is so cool. Oh my goodness. So I hope that you guys heard that. If you're looking to get into the Airbnb space, and I know Amanda and David, you guys are currently only working with clients in a particular area, right?
Yeah. So it's going to depend. Like we have a couple of different services you can work with us on. One is more on the front end, the underwriting, getting the scopes of work up front. But when it comes to managing projects and managing construction, right now we're only offering services in certain key areas because, as you would probably agree, it takes time to build resources there, right? So we can't just pick up in any city in the US and have a team of contractors, vendors, runners, right? So we have teams that we built in these key markets where we know we can execute on a project using these vendors that are reliable and do great work. So for now, it just depends on the types of services. But in order for us to really have full control over the project and the team, on the construction management side, at least that setup side, we are offering in very specific areas.
Yeah, and then on the tail end of that, we offer now co-hosting services. It's not necessarily property management, but strictly co-hosting. And co-hosting is something that we do feel comfortable taking on in different markets because it's a lot easier to establish our power team of a cleaner and a handyman rather than a full construction, design, staging team. That's a lot more resources that are needed than something like co-hosting. With co-hosting, I already know who my power partners are. I know how to get to those power partners and set up teams that can be pretty successful in different areas.
So are you guys just charging people like a percentage of the profit, or do you guys just do like a flat fee? How does that work?
It'll depend on the package. And what we do is we start with the baseline fee to cover all of the services that are already included. But then there's a percentage on top of what has more variable costs. So that those are things like construction rehabs. Those could be very small or they could be very intense. So it's going to be a percentage of the construction rehab. It's going to be a percentage of, for example, any special amenities that are built out, maybe in the backyard, and any other, and like staging fees, right? Because those are variable costs. So we have a baseline fee to get everything done A to Z. We'll even support you on your permit application, if your short-term rental permit application, if that's something that you need help with. So baseline fee, again, plus a percentage on top of the size of your project.
Right. And then for co-hosting, it really depends on what are the needs and the uniqueness of each client. So we can handle anything from simply just guest communication and reservation management, all the way to handling the cleaners, ordering supplies. And then the fee would depend on how involved we are as co-hosts.
Wow.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, Deba, go ahead.
No, I just love the fact of listening to your story of how you started in 2020, just doing a flip, turn it into short-term rentals, and now you have this full-out service to give back and help other people based on your recipe and what you've learned. And it's like now you're able to pay it forward based on what you've learned. And they just started in 2020. So like as our viewers are listening, you don't have to have it all figured out. Just do it. And as you do it, God will bless you with the right people and the right connections that you can truly blossom. Because I'm sure y'all were terrified when you started.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we still get terrified even to this day. We're like, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, is this right? Like we still get there, but we work through it, right? Because now we have the ability to be able to work through it. We have the experience to be able to work through it. And I always laugh, when I encounter people and they set up 2 short-term rentals and then they have a coaching program and they're trying to like sell their services, but with us, it wasn't necessarily like something that we did outbound where we're like, hey, we want to do this. It was really answering the needs of people that we were talking to, and people were coming to us and we're like, what are you guys doing? How are you guys doing this? And we're like, oh, do you need help with this? We'd love to help you. So that's really kind of organically how Turnkey by Nopali really started.
That's beautiful.
That is so amazing. One last thing, you guys, before we wrap things up, there are people out there who love what you guys are doing. I wish that we could have shown you guys' boutique hotel on here, but we're going to tell you guys how you guys can reach out to them afterwards. But there's people here who want to get into the short-term rental space, or they just really just want to invest their money and not necessarily do anything. They don't want to get the property. They just really want to just give you their money so that you can do all the work. For those individuals, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, happy to share. So a couple of ways. For this specific business, we have a website called Turnkey by Nopali, NOPALI.com, and that can give you kind of an overview of the services that we offer. I am huge on Instagram. I do a lot of business on there. So I'm underscore Amanda Fornelli underscore, and then I think he's DJ Fornelli on Instagram. Is that right?
David J. Fornelli.
Oh, sorry, David J. Fornelli on Instagram.
At David J. Fornelli on Instagram. So when folks are interested, we have a little form that people fill out, and that gives us an idea of what people are looking into, what is their appetite for investment, how much they have to invest. So once that form gets filled out, typically it's Amanda who will then reach out to them, and we'll start the conversation from there. It's usually a 15-minute call at first, just so we could learn more about each other. And then if it's a good fit and we want to continue to work together, that's when Amanda will take lead on a full private money presentation and just kind of building the relationship that way.
Okay, nice. And do you guys currently have deals that you're raising for, like currently now?
Yes, we do. Actually,
Okay.
We have 5 flips under contract in Los Angeles. We should be closing on 2 of them this week. And then the remainder of the 3 will close later this month, and then another one in January.
Well, one closed today.
Oh,
yeah, it just closed today.
I just found that out.
It happened. It happened this morning. So one closed this morning,
wow.
and then another one closes on Friday. But yeah, we're mostly raising on the flip side right now, but we're still scouting for those like really awesome short-term rental deals with the high cash on cash. And from time to time, we'll look for like equity partners on those. So yeah, just reach out if you're interested. We can learn how to work with one another and collaborate.
I love that. Oh, you guys, thank
Y'all
you
have
so
been amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you,
and
Deba.
for the audience, check out our boutique hotel on Instagram, Yara, YARA Palm Springs. Yeah, Yara Palm Springs is the handle. So check it out. I think you'll love it.
Yes, Yara Palm Springs. And I'll just say one last thing before we go, you guys. Amanda and David, I'm telling you, when they said that their design team is like killer, when you look at the aesthetics of all of their properties, like it's every single one is just aesthetically pleasing, modern finishes, just very, I don't know, just very inviting. Even just looking at your stuff over the computer, it's just like, man, I want to go there. I get excited when I'm looking at the Yara boutique. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait till I get to go. I'm gonna have my bathing suit. I'm gonna take pictures.
Ooh, I love that.
Come
I love that.
out. We'd love to
we say we like to appease the eye and please the soul. It's that 2-factor formula, because it starts with the visual, and then the next part of that is a feeling. When you actually enter the space and you're traveling through it, we want people to feel a certain way, and it comes across. So very happy that you said that, Tilisa.
It does. It comes across in the photos. So you guys are doing an amazing job. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm inspired. I think everybody else here is like really inspired. So thank you guys for joining today. As for our followers, you guys, thank you for subscribing. Please like and comment and let us know. Okay, my dogs are just, okay, Deba, we're finishing off my dogs.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
We love you.
Bye, guys.